In the quiet town of Willow Creek, nestled in the rolling hills of rural Ohio, lived a man named Jack Thompson. Jack was in his mid-40s, with salt and pepper hair and a face lined from years of hard work under the sun. He ran a small hardware store on Main Street, the kind of place where folks came not just for nails and paint, but for a chat about the weather or the latest high school football game. Life moved slow in Willow Creek, like the lazy flow of the creek that gave the town its name. Mornings started with the sun peeking over the horizon, casting a golden glow on the old brick buildings. Evenings wound down with crickets chirping and stars twinkling in a vast, clear sky. Jack's days followed a familiar rhythm. He'd wake at dawn, brew a pot of strong coffee in his modest kitchen, and sit on the porch of his two-story house, watching the world stir. His wife, Emily, had passed away 5 years ago from a sudden illness, leaving a hole in his heart that time hadn't fully mended. They had no children, just each other and a community that felt like family. Emily had loved gardening, and Jack kept her flower beds alive in her memory, roses blooming red in summer, daisies nodding in the breeze. It was his way of holding on. One crisp autumn morning, as leaves turned shades of orange and gold, Jack decided to clean out the attic. It had been years since he'd ventured up there. Dust motes danced in the beam of his flashlight as he climbed the creaky ladder. Boxes of old photos, forgotten Christmas decorations, and Emily's sewing kit sat in silent piles. He paused, running his fingers over a faded quilt she had made. Memories flooded back, her laughter, the way she'd hum while working. As he shifted a stack of boxes, something caught his eye, a small, wooden chest tucked in the corner, covered in a layer of grime. He wiped it clean and opened the lid with a soft creak. Inside were letters, yellowed with age, tied with a faded ribbon. They weren't Emily's, these looked much older. Curious, Jack untied the bundle and pulled out the top one. The envelope was addressed to "My dearest Clara" in elegant, looping handwriting. The postmark read 1942, from a soldier stationed overseas during World War II. Jack settled on an old stool, the attic's silence wrapping around him like a blanket. He read the first letter slowly, savoring each word. It was from a man named Henry, writing to his wife Clara about the hardships of war, the mud in the trenches, the fear in the night, but also the hope that kept him going. "I dream of our farm back home," Henry wrote, "the way the wheat sways in the wind, and your smile waiting for me." Jack felt a pain in his chest. It reminded him of his own letters to Emily when he was away on business trips, simple notes of love and longing. He spent the afternoon lost in the letters. There were dozens, spanning years. Henry described battles in Europe, the camaraderie with his fellow soldiers, and small joys like a care package from home. Clara's replies were there too, tucked in between the news of the farm, the birth of their son, her worries masked with optimism. "The apples are ripening," she'd write, "and I've saved the biggest one for you." Jack imagined their life, a young couple separated by war, holding on through ink and paper. As the sun dipped low, casting long shadows through the attic window, Jack realized these letters belonged to his grandparents. Henry and Clara were his mother's parents, who had lived in this very house before passing it down. He'd heard stories of them, but never in such detail. Why had they been hidden away? He felt a gentle curiosity stirring, like a breeze rustling leaves. That evening, Jack sat by the fireplace, the letters spread on the coffee table. The fire crackled softly, warming the room. He thought about his own life, how after Emily's death, he'd withdrawn, going through motions without much feeling. The store kept him busy, but loneliness crept in at night. Reading these letters made him see parallels. Henry had faced uncertainty, yet his words brimmed with resilience. "We'll rebuild," Henry had written after a particularly grim battle. "Love like ours doesn't fade." The next day, Jack faced a relatable problem that had been simmering for months. Business at the hardware store was slowing. Big chain stores in the nearby city drew customers away with lower prices and flashy ads. Folks in Willow Creek still came for Jack's personal touch. He knew everyone's projects, from fixing a leaky roof to building a treehouse, but sales were down, bills piled up, and he worried about closing the doors. It wasn't just a job, the store was his connection to the town, a place where he felt needed. He confided in his friend, Mike, over lunch at the diner. Mike, a retired teacher with a bushy mustache and kind eyes, listened quietly. "Times change, Jack," Mike said, sipping his coffee. "But you've got roots here. Maybe those letters are a sign of something from the past to guide you." Jack nodded, but doubt lingered. That afternoon, as he stocked shelves, a young couple came in looking for paint. They were new to town, fixing up an old house. Jack helped them choose colors, sharing tips Emily had taught him about matching shades to light. As they left, the woman turned back. "Thanks for the advice. It's nice to feel welcome here." The words stuck with him. That night, he read more letters. In one, Clara described rationing during the war, how the community pulled together sharing food, helping with harvests. "We lean on each other," she wrote. Jack paused, the page crinkling under his fingers. Maybe that was the key. Willow Creek had always been about community, but lately, everyone seemed isolated, busy with their own lives. The gentle twist came a few days later. While reading a letter from 1945, Jack found a loose pagina recipe for apple pie, handwritten by Clara. "For when you return," it said. Below it, a note, "Passed down from my mother, to warm the heart." But clipped to it was something unexpected, a small, folded map. It showed the farm property, with a spot marked in the orchard. "Buried here, for safekeeping," Henry had scribbled. Jack's heart quickened. Buried treasure? It sounded like a story from a book. Intrigued, he grabbed a shovel the next morning and headed to the backyard orchard, where apple trees stood tall, their branches heavy with fruit. The air smelled sweet, birds singing overhead. He followed the map, counting steps from the old oak tree, digging carefully. His spade hit something hard, a metal box, rusted but intact. Inside, wrapped in oilcloth, were war medals, a few gold coins from the era, and a locket with photos of Henry and Clara. Jack sat on the grass, the box in his lap. The medals gleamed in the sunlight. These weren't just relics, they were symbols of sacrifice and love. The coins had value enough, perhaps, to ease his financial worries. But more than that, they connected him to his heritage, a reminder that his family had overcome harder times. Word spread quickly in Willow Creek. Jack shared the story at the store, showing the letters to curious neighbors. People came in droves, not just to buy, but to listen. Mike suggested a town event, a history night, where folks could share their own family tales. Jack agreed, feeling a spark he hadn't in years. The event took place in the community hall, lanterns glowing softly, tables held pies baked from Clara's recipe, the aroma filling the air. Jack read excerpts from the letters, his voice steady and warm. "These words remind us we're not alone," he said. The room fell quiet, then erupted in stories of veterans recalling their service, elders sharing Depression-era hardships. The young couple from the store brought photos of their renovation, inspired by the past. As the night wound down, Jack felt Emily's presence, like a gentle hand on his shoulder. She'd have loved these bringing people together. The twist of the buried box had unlocked not just treasure, but a renewed sense of purpose. In the weeks that followed, the store thrived. Customers returned, valuing the personal connection over convenience. Jack used some of the coin money to update the place, a fresh coat of paint, a cozy corner for storytelling. He framed a letter on the wall, a tribute to Henry and Clara. One evening, as snow began to dust the ground, a winter's first whisper, Jack sat on his porch, a mug of coffee steaming. The town lights twinkled below, peaceful and alive. He'd faced loneliness and loss, but the letters had shown him resilience runs in the blood. Life in Willow Creek flowed on, slow and steady, like the creek itself. Jack smiled, content. The past had gifted him a future, grounded in love and community. And in that quiet moment, he knew Emily would be proud.